When you see the woman you care about, you want her to show affection first. But the moment that thought enters your mind, your heart slams against your chest like it is in danger. At that instant, you do what most men do under pressure. You retreat to the safe zone. You ask neutral questions, act overly polite. You speak in a tone that sounds normal. And then you watch the chance for deeper connections slip through your fingers, all while pretending everything is fine. You wouldn't admit you're afraid. Rejection rarely comes with dramatic public humiliation. It is quiet, she smiles, but it is just a slight curve of her lips. She responds, but never leans in. Women can sense these things faster than men, not because they can read minds, but because your behavior reveals you. The half-second delayed laugh, the interview-like stream of questions, your desperate attempt to appear harmless, easygoing, and agreeable. This is why it stings so much. Many men fail, not because they said something ridiculous, but because nothing happened at all. No sparks, no tension, no moments she could latch onto later. Worse, the awkward guy and the too safe guy are often the same person. They just show up on different days. One day, anxiety freezes him in polite caution. Another day, panic makes him overcorrect and seem strange. Once you realize this, many of your past interactions take on a painful clarity. Dead conversations, polite smiles, "You're such a nice guy" energy, exchanges of contact info that led nowhere. Have you noticed that when you finally decide to make a move, the interaction dies in your hands? Not because you didn't speak, but because you said too much, too obviously. She is laughing with you at the bar, shoulders relaxed, playing with the straw in her drink. There is space for the conversation, room for curiosity. Then impatience hits, and you lay your intentions on the table, turning a light, playful interaction into a clumsy declaration. "You'd look really sexy in that." I try not to stare. "You should come home with me." Her expression doesn't fully collapse, but it tenses. The sting is specific. Replaying that line you wish you could take back. In the cab ride home, checking your phone the next day for a message that isn't there. Watching a warm conversation become awkward because you made the subtext too loud. Many men never recover because they misread the wound. They tell themselves women only respond to looks, status, and luck, not to the behaviors that actually kill the interaction. So they get louder, more confident, more direct, more complimentary. Always with the same result: less chemistry, more resistance. This is why many men think they're flirting, when in fact they're just poorly timing the revelation of desire. They call it honesty, but most of the time it is anxiety seeking relief. You want certainty, so you rush to reveal what should have been subtle. You want to know if she accepts or rejects you. So you lay all your cards on the table. Have you noticed that when you try to play it safe, you disappear? Not physically, but socially, she is still there, smiling, answering questions. But the energy is flat. You replay every word in your head, wondering why. On the surface, it was polite, relaxed, even smooth, yet completely lifeless. Many men fail, not because they're creepy or ridiculous, but because they stay on the safest path and call it flirting. They speak to her like they would a cashier, a colleague, or a friend's sister, then wonder why the moment is archived. As a nice guy, harmless, maybe a friend. That sting is more common than most men admit. You think you didn't screw up. You were respectful, relaxed, and not over the top. When this happens, your body feels it, shoulders tighten, speech speeds up, extra jokes get inserted to save the moment. Another practical question pops up because silence suddenly feels dangerous. She responds, but now you're performing. You're trying to salvage something that never existed. Most men know this scene well. High energy, we're vibing. Sibling-like energy, we're getting along. Yet nothing happens. Walking away, you think maybe you need better lines, better timing, better looks, better luck. But what usually happened is simpler, more human. You made her comfortable but never gave her contrast. No heartbeat change, no moment that makes her doubt whether you're just another easygoing guy or someone who can remain steady under slight pressure. Of course, this happens because many men train themselves to avoid any behavior that could be misread. They flatten their edges, suppress innuendo, bury interest in ordinary jokes like a group chat. Then, when they finally show interest, it comes out all at once, awkward and heavy because it has been suppressed. This isn't a character flaw. It is a normal reaction of a man trying not to embarrass himself, all while trying not to disappear. So the problem is rarely that you can't talk to women. You can speak, be funny, be warm. The pain comes when attraction shows up, and those skills seem useless. You're hyper-aware of every word, pause, and expression. Simple interactions suddenly feel like disarming a bomb with insulated gloves. This confusion is nearly universal. Men are told to be yourself, but no one explains what to do if your default self becomes overly cautious, neutral, or easily categorized under stress. So you blur to play it safe, then feel guilty for being bland. Or you overshoot, tired of ambiguity, and feel embarrassed later. The swing between invisible and obvious is exhausting. Once you understand this, past interactions make more sense. She didn't always dislike you. Sometimes she just never felt you grounded yourself. Never felt a center pushing the interaction. Never had reason to doubt if you were just another easygoing guy or someone steady under slight pressure. So if this is your story, don't reduce it to failing at flirting. That excuse is just way too shallow. You're really facing the gap between feeling attraction and expressing it. Wanting tension but accidentally producing neutrality. Trying not to lose the moment but slowly draining it. Why does a small tease trigger some men instantly? Because a seemingly random joke is often a stress probe, not a moral trial or judgment. The mechanism is, she applies subtle pressure. You decide whether to absorb it or yield. Attraction doesn't disappear because she caught you doing something wrong. It disappears because you over-explain, seek approval, or try to prove your innocence, signaling that her reaction controls your state. She didn't create your insecurity, she exposed it, and that is key. These probes aren't dramatic. Just a teasing smile. I bet you say that to every girl. A direct question. How many women have you slept with? Or a playful demand, buy me a drink. On the surface, they are just words. But beneath, each line tries to pull you into a predictable role. Defensive, confessing, negotiating, or performing. The trap isn't the question, it is your reaction. The cleanest response is not rebuttal. It is refusing the courtroom, turning the interaction into a game. If she says, you say that to every girl. And you respond like a nervous witness. You accept her framework. But if you answer with exaggeration or absurdity, you show the pressure hasn't entered your body. Yeah, I wake up every morning buried in fan mail. It is the exact same for invasive questions. If she asks, how many women have you slept with? And you count, defend, or get upset, you lose. Make it absurd, and you appear relaxed. The deeper dynamic, you no longer default to thinking she is the prize, and you are just the applicant. You invert the frame, not arrogantly, but with playful calm. If she says something suggestive, asks for another drink, holds eye contact, or gives interest cues, you frame it as her trying to earn you. Easy. Are you trying to seduce me? Wow, now you want me drunk. It is not about specific lines. It is the inversion. She tests. You don't beg. She pressures. You don't yield. She creates the moment most men rush to certainty. If you don't chase it, the interaction transforms. When you notice women testing your state, don't rush. Don't withdraw. Create controllable tension. Not manipulation, not childish games, just tension. Stop giving full approval automatically. Don't treat every warm interaction as a contract. Give appropriately, then hold your center. Simple in practice, But most men fail because their bodies betray them before words. Leaning too fast, laughing too loudly, explaining too much. Rushing to prove or clarify. That is when you lose nervous system control. First rule, slow down, breathe steadily. Give yourself half a second before responding. If she compliments you, don't gulp it down. If she teases, don't defend like it is a courtroom. This is why playful rebuttal works. Not because women are machines to be manipulated, but because tension needs contrast. If you only move in, you become predictable. If you only push away, you become cold. Moderate acknowledgement, then recentralize. The interaction gains life. You signal, I see you, but engaging me isn't automatic. It must be sincere trembling. Desperate jokes won't fool her. Your nervous system communicates more than technique ever will. A useful method, let her carry some tension, but moderately. If she mentions harmless topics, apartment, weekend plans, small details, you can shift the frame, making her escalate tension. Wow, you're already trying to get me over there. Relax, that sounds like recruitment. You make that sound unsafe. Energy flips. You're no longer the one forcing the romantic pace. This stance is the game. Women who unsettle men most often don't have complex strategies. They simply observe whether your inner state belongs to you or is dictated by their reaction. If your mood, confidence, pace, and self-image fluctuate with a tease, you're no longer on equal footing. Next interaction, feel your feet, relax your jaw. Speak less than your anxiety wants to. Say something playful, then pause. Let silence work. If she moves closer, great. If not, you stay centered. What if I freeze, miss my chance? Or realize 5 minutes later, I lost my center? Perfect. That means you're finally aware. Success isn't being a perfect flirting machine with the right line at all times. Promise, not every woman will like you. No line opens all doors. Life doesn't become a scripted chemistry reaction. The promise, you can be the man who doesn't collapse when attraction appears. The man who feels the heartbeat, notices the urge to please, yet controls his expression, tone, and choices. The man who knows flirting isn't begging to be chosen. Once mastered rejection changes, it is no longer a judgment of value, but information, wrong timing, wrong person, no spark. You remain dignified without self-betrayal. So keep the essentials, maintain your stance, humor, and engagement, without handing over the keys to your nervous system. You don't need to be louder, slicker, or manipulative. If you've ever lost composure mid-interaction and only realized it later, you already know the exact moments this text describes. Think. Was it your voice, your texts, your body language, or your urge to fill silence that gave you away?